East Coast Expressway is the expressway that links the capital city Kuala Lumpur to the East Coast states of Pahang and Terengganu. With a length of 174 kilometers, the expressway connects the cities and two ports on both coasts of Peninsula, Port Klang and Port Kuantan. On the first phase, the expressway was built between Karak and Kuantan, the state capital of Pahang, with the rest of the national expressway network. Why was the expensive East Coast Expressway built in the region less densely populated than the West Coast? And what are the benefits to the people and the economy? Let's drive through the jungle and palm oil plantations to discover the timeline of the making of East Coast Expressway Phase 1. East Coast states of Pahang, Terengganu and Kelantan are located at the eastern part of Peninsular Malaysia, where main economic activities are petroleum, palm oil, fisheries and small-scale farming. Generally less densely populated than the West Coast, East Coast maintain the rural atmosphere and more than 90% of the population are ethnically Malay. By building a controlled access expressway, the time and distance between Kuala Lumpur and the cities beyond Titiwangsa Range are reduced, albeit with high construction costs and fewer road traffic than the West Coast. To understand the need of the expansive expressway connecting the both coasts, we need to look back at the road development in Pahang since the early 20th century. Before the introduction of the modern transportation in the late 19th century, water was the main way to connect the towns and villages throughout the East Coast. Row, row, row the boat, row the boat. Towns and villages are located near to the coast and rivers, as water transport is more convenient and road was unpaved, narrow and prone to robbery. And that is the reason why all the state capitals of the East Coast states are located near the sea or by river estuary. Rivers were crucial in transport that the local Pahang nobleman Datuk Bahaman revolted against the British colonialism by raising British-controlled police station at Lubuk Terua near Semantang River on 9th of March 1892. Other than transportation, water is the main source of food as people caught fish as a source of income. Famous food from the East Coast are heavily influenced by fish and seafood. Budu, which is fermented fish sauce, nasi dagang, which is rice with skipjack tuna curry, and keropok lekor. It's a kind of fish sausage. Today, rivers are no longer used for transportation and seaboats remain in use to link the islands of the coast. With the introduction of railway and road vehicles in the early 20th century that is faster and more economical than the waterways, land transport to over water as the main connector between the places in the East Coast. The expansion of the road network across Peninsula increased the importance of land transport and caused the water transport become less important time by time. By the early 20th century, driving a vehicle from Kuala Lumpur to Kuantan is possible via the Gap, Raup, Jerantut Ferry and Maran. Other than the Gap, a road between Gombak and Bentung via Genting Sempah was opened in the 1915, the old one. The old Gombak Bentung road later superseded by the new Gombak Karak road with the first road tunnel in the country. I talked about KL Karak Expressway in the previous video where the near end of this expressway was diverted to become the starting point of the East Coast Expressway. To watch this video, the link will be at the end, at the corner of the video. The current alignment of Federal Route 2 to the East Coast was completed in the year 1955, the same year when the capital of Pahang was moved from Kuala Lipis to Kuantan. As a result, the traffic between Gombak and Kuantan via Temerloh increased significantly. Before the opening of the East-West Highway in the year 1982 and the completion of Federal Route 8 in the year 1986, Federal Route 2 is the only main road between Kuala Lumpur and all three East Coast states. Therefore, increasing traffic makes the road increasingly congested by time. Widening the road is expensive due to hilly and swampy terrains and lesser population, in addition to the longer distance from one town to another, unlike in the west coast. This is part of the reasons that Federal Route 2 between Karak and Kuantan was not upgraded into a highway, unlike the early plan of building the North-South Expressway, where Federal Route 1 from Thai border in the north to Johor Causeway to the south was upgraded into a dual carriageway. I talk about the first upgraded section of the Federal Route 1, which is included as part of the North-South Expressway, or popularly known as PLUS in Malaysia, in the previous video, where the section between Bukit Kahitam near the Thai border to Jitra, about 30 kilometers, is built earlier and different than the rest of the expressway. To know what is so different about this part of the road, you can watch in the link right here. Initially, East Coast Expressway should started right after the completion of KL Karak Expressway in the year 1997. The idea to build an expressway to the East Coast has been mentioned since 1993, pending the traffic and financing availability. The population of Pahang is only about 1.5 million people in the latest census of 2020, almost similar with the population of the whole Kuala Lumpur. Why was the expressway built across jungles, hills and palm oil trees to connect a state that has similar population number with Kuala Lumpur? Nearby Kuantan, the state capital of Pahang, is Tanjung Gelang Port, where heavy industries such as petrochemical and steel industries are located next to the port at Gebeng. The expressway was built to connect the industry, especially heavy industries, to ease the logistics, encouraging economic growth on the East Coast region. In addition, expressway will lessen the road accidents that involve heavy vehicles that otherwise use Federal Road that has only one lane per direction. The ease of movement also means more movement by bus and private vehicles, encouraging commerce and tourism. I will explain later. The construction should be started in 1997 but postponed due to Asian financial crisis that hit Asian countries including Malaysia. The first stage of East Coast Expressway was opened on the 1st of August 2004 between Karak and Kuantan with a cost of 1.3 billion ringgit according to concessionaire Anil Berhad. All interchanges between Karak and Kuantan were opened on 2004, except Serijaya and Jabor interchanges which were opened in the year 2007. In the early years after the opening of the expressway, numerous damages and cracks has been found that led to partial closure of the certain sections on the expressway. When the heavy downpour occurred, the expressway could be submerged underwater and closed for all the traffic. Thus, it is uncommon to find a partially closed section and the expressway reduced to a single lane per direction to give a space for repairing works. From Kuantan, East Coast Expressway turned northward towards Kuala Terengganu, the state capital of Terengganu. However, traffic bound for Kuala Terengganu still refers as eastbound traffic, while the opposite direction is the westbound traffic. Regardless of the traffic direction, a trip from Kuala Lumpur to Kuantan could take about 5 hours, reduced to 3 hours, encouraging trade and tourism. There are a number of tourist sites that are more accessible after the completion of the East Coast Expressway. For example, Kuala Gandah Elephant Sanctuary, where the elephants are rescued and rehabilitated, located near Lanchang in western Pahang. Definitely an unforgettable moment. Be sure to visit there someday because it is free to enter, but it is also optional to give a donation to the government-owned sanctuary. Pahang National Park, which used to be a full daylight drive from Kuala Lumpur, is reduced into a 3-hour drive. A drive from Kuala Lumpur to Kuantan City to eat fresh seafood is reduced from 5 hours to 3 hours. East Coast Expressway is commonly called by phase either LPT1, which is East Coast Expressway 1, or LPT2, East Coast Expressway 2, the only expressway in Malaysia officially gazetted in such a way. Unlike North-South Expressway, where the expressway was built by stages with a single concessionaire, which is today's Plus Berhad, East Coast Expressway Phase 2 in Terengganu was built later due to no toll policy of Terengganu State Government between 1999 until 2004. After the change of government in Terengganu in the year 2004, the extension of East Coast Expressway to Kuala Terengganu was possible. Therefore, East Coast Expressway in Terengganu was built under different circumstances with the different contractors and concessionaire. Topic for the next video. If you want to drive on East Coast Expressway, the expressway begins at Karak, the end of KL Karak Expressway, and ends at Kuala Terengganu. By now, express bus ply on the expressway from Kuala Lumpur to the cities and towns in Pahang and Terengganu. Major tourist attractions along East Coast Expressway Phase 1 are Kuala Gandah Elephant Conservatory, Pahang National Park, Gambang Water Park, and Kuantan Esplanade. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new about East Coast Expressway that cut through the jungles, hills, and palm oil trees. Thank you so much for watching again, and see you in the next video.